indexing into skirmish. Mako seems to find something funny about putting Scout once again on the Zir. This is his pick for the champion, so sometimes you have to treat your support nicely if you want that counter pick.
All right, 7 seconds to lock that one in, and that kind of facilitates one, but you got Cannon Barrage, you got the Emperor's Divide. A lot of space to create, and Clement, walk me through EDG, because they've got a lot of wombo effects. They've got a lot of scaling on this roster.
Yeah, EDG are playing a teamfight composition where they can zone out opponents with shorter ranges. So TT, it's going to be very hard for them to utilize Rek'Sai or Samira in the late games situations. I think what they have to do is basically just force gank bot lane over and over again. I don't even like their chances that much in Drake fights necessarily. Okay. I feel like it's very easy for EDG on the red side to kind of come in late and just use their range to kind of poke out TT in this scenario. They don't actually have a good top lane matchup either. So, I'm leaning very much in favor of EDG having a lot more options, having a lot more scaling, and TT on the other side just trying to force things in the bottom side.
So hit bot and maybe picks or small skirmishes with a numbers advantage, Clement, if you can get the wave pushed. Like, is that what you want to see?
If Samira gets 3 kills early, she's a win condition. Enough said.
Well said. All right, that's why people are complaining about the champion, but feast or famine, Mr. Chu told you. And if chat listened to Mr. Chu, then they'd realize that this could go one way or it could go the highway for TT. A 0-1 start here. They're 0-3 in the league, and this has not been a great start. They went up against RNG, LNG, WE. They've versed very hard teams. They've got V5 coming up next. It's not getting any easier. And EDG trying to smack them for a quick 2-0. Will they let them know Xiaopeng back on his legendary Rek'Sai? And if anyone can do it, he can. He's game 1, a slow start. Game 2 in question. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Summoner's Rift. Welcome to LPL for week 4. Welcome to EDG's start of dominance as a potential running into this.
So to talk a little bit about the Rek'Sai, funnily enough, the person that's been spamming the most Rek'Sai and high challenger has actually been Clearlove. He has not given up this champion. He loves the Queen. He plays him. Last time I checked, he still had over 70% win rate on this champion, and his build has been Stridebreaker, just to give you a lot more chase potential and a lot more HP into the team fight. So I wonder if Xiaopeng will follow the same build.
Okay, Stridebreaker on Rek'Sai, that's super interesting. Mythic is going to be a massive question, because again, in competitive play, I'm not sure if this is the first Rek'Sai, but at least in Premier Regions, definitely is. So this is going to be a massive throw into the air as to the Mythic. You talked about the Stridebreaker already. We'll remember that as EDG throwing the white flags in a little bit early, but they're setting up for an invade.
I like this idea. If you're against an enemy team that really wants to all in onto ganks, then disrupting their tempo is incredibly important. This is going to be a great late invade. However, TT could seize the opportunity and try to fight them here in this 8-man duel.
This is just fun. JJ gets level 2 first, and out they go with Raptors. No red buff steal. Viper and Mako pathing down aggressively through Tribrush.
This is a massive win on the side of EDG. They get the jungle advantage. They make sure that there's no level 3 shenanigans coming out of Rek'Sai. If you remember Rek'Sai, he's actually really, really good at level 3 blue side ganks. There's way too many angles he can hit you from, so they make sure he can't do that. And force him onto the top side, which is just buys a lot of time for JJ to actually find his way back onto this side of the map as well.
And it's not just a win for JJ, right? It's a win for the bottom lane, because Viper and Mako, even though they missed out on some of the wave, Sam D came in late. He went the long way around red because he was pivoting to see if anything would make of the play. So he's late into the wave. He's currently on 0 CS, as he can't even walk up.
And we talked about this in draft. The win con for TT is pretty much hit bot early, hit bot hard, and try to snowball the Samira. If not, that's not going to happen. They don't actually have a lot of options in their solo lanes to find ganks here. So I do expect EDG to have JJ come back, and this trade is going to be very dangerous.
Yes, it is. Calibrum, the second shot almost connects. And this is just going from bad to worse. Look at the big minion wave still. Sam D's level 1. He gets his first CS. Everyone cheered. And as this finally pushes in, it's going to be very hard to step up with Calibrum still in the hands of Viper.
Yep, and meanwhile in the top side, as we were talking about, Gameplank does have a relatively advantageous early few levels. So he will use that to scout out where Xiaopeng is on the map. They know the Rek'Sai is on the top side. This bottom is completely open. They can continue to play as aggressive as possible, and they know they won't get punished for it.
And I like Scout's positioning in the wave, right? Playing towards Jeje, who's towards the bottom side. He's downward in the mid lane. And Jeje can move in an instant. He's on the scuttle. He'll be taking that very shortly as well. Scout, you can see, in the wave, going to be moving down, needs the shifting sands, down towards Jeje. Xiaopeng gets absolutely nothing except a bit of pressure, but Scout just pokes him out as well.
And I want to mention something that is so interesting and something that so far I've only seen SOFM do. He actually left his red buff alive to path towards the bottom side of the map. So Xiaopeng was kind of confused right there. Like, he thought that with Jeje going towards his red buff, he saw that through the mid lane, that buff wasn't going to be there. So he actually goes back down to his own red and then finds Jeje with perfect tempo.
What a nuisance. In he comes again. I don't know who the smite went down to. I think Xiaopeng. Did Xiaopeng get it? And Clement, your eyes are
not really sure, but I know who's going to get the red buff.
Yeah, it's going to be Jeje, so that's what matters in the end. You said he left his own red. If Xiaopeng goes in now, he'll be able to take it away, but he could just be heading for the Raptors, which he knows is definitely there. So Xiaopeng trying to catch up after getting bullied out a second time at those Raptor camps.
And what I love about this is it's basically a lose-lose situation for TT, especially for their bot lane. Sure, Xiaopeng might be able to trade away the red buff, a very delayed trade, but that also means that Samd and Teen have to sit underneath this tower for extended amounts of time. So, you know, JJ doesn't even matter, and oh no, he doesn't even get the red buff.
Doesn't, still there. JJ's walking past to the Krug's gonna leave it for now, get some movement speed off his passive as he swings by. You can see even in the top lane, you know, Flandre trading okay, Cholita has the push, but now they have to be careful. Pings are going down, and where for TT, Clement? You know, you already talked about the bottom lane, but how do you stop this bleeding?
Can I just tell you something pretty sad? This Rek'Sai has only been able to farm his own blue quadrant of the map.
Yeah.
The bottom side was taken away early. He did get the Raptors from the top side, let's be clear about that. But he is massively behind in CS, and the quadrant that he's farming from is one of the furthest quadrants away from his bottom side. And I just have to commend EDG for doing such a great job. The level 1 force out, not taking the red buff for extra tempo, and contesting Xiaopeng's red buff by himself. Also using the priority from Flandre to make sure they could keep tabs onto the Rek'Sai. All of these things change so well together, and they're just punishing this Rek'Sai. Like, Xiaopeng is not having a fun time.
And this can balloon, right? You know, Xiaopeng, if he falls behind, we know Rek'Sai is such an early game dominant champion, especially when Jeje adds to the comp of EDG that want to scale, and you talked about scaling up. You know, they're very comfortable in those team fights, and this is already just such a good pace for them. Even getting more bot side control now with the dragon spawning, and the scuttle crab being taken.
I will say that Xiaopeng doesn't look like he's going to go for Strikebreaker. This is the go broke or go home sort of build. We shouldn't be seeing this skirmish happen just yet.
Yep.
But this looks like it could potentially be Brawlers.
Shockwave brings in. Jeje gets the smite down, though. He got the Raptors, and he got what he came for. Doesn't really care, as he has a level advantage now with the lilting Lullaby. Xiaopeng dodges away with a quick sweep, and Jeje continues to stay in this enemy jungle.
And this is just so painful to watch. How are you going to snowball Samira if your jungle can't even walk to the bottom side of the map?
You said what you meant, Clement. You said what you meant. Hey, if it was Udyr, Xiaopeng, he wouldn't be in this deficit, man. That's all I'm saying. Udyr would have done better.
Trust the man bear pig. He at least has a crowd control.
Man bear pig. Someone's been watching too much South Park. Well, Dragon's going to go down, at least for now. Xiaopeng trying to make a response on the top side. He goes into the enemy jungle. And while Krugs are there, he's got his eyes on the prize of Flandre, but he has Cannon Barrage. Very hard to dive GP who has set up.
Yeah, and Xiaopeng's still looking for his level 6. He doesn't have it just yet, so not really having a lot of burst. But, you know, they still get the flash out of Flandre. That's good. I do want to talk about his build. We have seen also Prowlers come out from some Rek'Sais as well. You do have a lot of burst potential, and if you use that first before you get the true damage proc, I believe you can actually increase the damage on your true damage as well.
Yep.
The Ferocious Bite.
Prowler's Claw, probably the least picked up item in competitive League of Legends. I believe we saw it in LEC or LCK last night on a Renekton. Someone can validate that for me there. But of course, lethality item and getting the dash through the target, that bonus physical damage to that target, and increasing your damage. So it'll be great for the 1v1 potentials. That hook lands, but Teen, he didn't have 6, even if he wanted to pop that Unbreakable Will. Finally getting somewhere in this lane, Clement, Sam D, and Teen are finally out of the shadow of their turret.
Yeah, and I think they've actually done a very good job. Ooh.
On to Mako. If they find a kill here, it gets even better. You want that S ranking, baby. Flashes forward. Sam D now has his eyes on a bigger prize. 200 versus 201 years. And Viper remains the classic. Cannon Barrage helps out as well as Ninja Gaiden starts sending down shurikens, and only Teen survives.
But it's not going to be a fair fight in the end. Viper could have won that if not for Flandre's Cannon Barrage coming down. Sure. And they're not going to get that much of a snowball coming in either. They will trade away the Herald for it. Now, it's kind of an interesting situation. I do want to see them actually kind of use the Herald towards the bottom side just to get a little bit more gold.
Ooh, Scout. Emperor's Shuffle flies through. Twyla has to flash away. Herald now picked up, though. JJ gonna get the Lilting Lullaby. Chalitza doesn't have a Mega Narbar. Mako's coming in with the Death Sentence. Forces Xiaopeng to flash away. He wanted that objective, and if he died, it would have just been too much salt for the wounds. So good to see he gets it, and that TT are managing to claw back some of the gold and the early game deficit.
Yeah, very well done on their part here. They do get away with their lives, and that was pretty big for Xiaopeng. The thing about going into lethality when you're already behind on the map in tempo is the item actually doesn't give you that many stats. It only scales up with armor penetration when you get your own levels up. That's how lethality works, and against the later it goes, the least effective that item actually is becoming. So we have to pay close attention here and hope that he can find some kills early on. But going into the bot lane, this was really well done on Mako's part. He does stop Sam D from coming in, but that was definitely a wrong exhaust. That definitely did not go onto the right target there. Sam D sees his opportunity and flies in.
And Viper gets to stay in the lane, still 10 CS up. Sam D, as he comes back, though, he has the Noon Quiver, and the kill's going to feel like it closes in part of the gap that was built up in the early game. Again, we mentioned that Sam D and T was stuck in this wave, and they were stuck next to the turret. So the fact that they're contesting a 2v2 is good news for TT, despite how this early game went. We'll see if Xiaopeng can get back to the original game plan you mentioned and try and hit bot and punish some of these summoner windows.
Yeah, and we also have to pay attention to some of the other summoners in, especially the mid lane. Scout does have a TP advantage over Twyla, so they have to be very careful about this one. And before they actually make their move, they will have to scour the brushes for some backside wards. And I also want to mention something interesting on JJ. He's actually not going for a mythic first.
He's not. It's on his first item here on the Lilia. Just to correct there quickly for our audience, a flash window, you were saying, for Scout over Twyla, even bigger when you consider the summoners. But back up to your point, the Zhonya's first item, I mean, that lethality, even more so, is going to be, when that item finally comes through, it's going to be a lot harder to deal with JJ.
This is such a fun item build coming out from JJ. I really like this. I think it's much more beneficial than going for something like Moonstone Renewer or just going for like the Leandries later on, but nothing's going to happen of it. I like it because mainly what we have seen EDG do is poke JJ into the enemy jungle and try to keep Rek'Sai down that way, so he does need a lot of armor and survivability for that one.
Xiaopeng gonna get tagged. Yes, he is. Lilting Lullaby, and he doesn't have a flashy bird before. Uses that ulti to dive on in. He had no way in him but the highway. Scout flashes away from Chalitza, who's going into the Mega Nart. JJ, remember, that's on his Hourglass paying dividends as a Cannon Barrage flies down. And Twyla still has the Shockwave, didn't get to use it here on his Orianna.
I'm almost not sure if that was better. He would have died either way, but that was kind of a
probably
kind of a keck way to go out.
Well, he's got the Prowler's Claw now, Clement, so it definitely wasn't worth, but it was a quick back timing where he didn't actually have to press a B button.
Oh, that is true. That is true. You know, that is a great way to go back to base.
That's right. Optimism. So, Prowler's Claw now picked up. We'll see what happened in the bottom lane. A flash forced out of Viper from an engage from Teen. I don't think he died in the end. As topside, we come back to a bit of live action, and live action. I remember that was the turtle, man. Chalitza now walking away, flashes in the end with the boomerang blade slowing them down. Death Sentence doesn't connect down here, but S rank achieved, ready to fly in as Xiaopeng uses the Prowler's Claw, but it's dodged away from by Mako. And EDG's bottom lane at 2v3 quite comfortably.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised that he was able to dodge away from that one. Mako with a good footwork, and 2v3, they're fine, just like you mentioned right there. I do like the window that TT were trying to go for. There was no cannon barrage coming in from the top lane, and it looked like EDG were playing pretty aggressive. It's just a little bit unfortunate. The execution wasn't really there to close the deal.
Well, we're to a point where EDG managed to have a little bit more gold than TT. Cloud Dragon coming up, and with the resets on the map, it feels like TT are not going to be to this one first, but Jeje the same as Blue Buff. Resets and not starting it up for now. I think it's also important to note, Clement, that, you know, again, the compositions that you labeled down is, for EDG, the scaling element definitely there. The feast or famine of a Samira, well, at least getting past that famine point, means there's a lot of opportunities here for TT to scale themselves and move into this game. Clement, did you press your mic button? Did you mute? Mr. Chu?
I'm here. I'm back.
How dare you?
Hey,
How dare you?
You know me so well. But I definitely think it's a situation where, never mind, Mako's fine. Xiaopeng. Oh, he's just dead.
And Xiaopeng's dead. Prowler's Claw. Yep, no resistances. The dragon goes down. Team with the engaged scout with a pretty average ultimate. Jeje going golden with the Zhonya's Hourglass. He might sacrifice his life as the Lilting Lullaby wasn't even used. So Sam D gets another kill at the cost of Dragon and one of their own.
Yeah, I still think EDG are pretty fine with that one. It's just a 1-for-1 trade on their end. And that's kind of the problem about Prowler's Claw and why we haven't seen that many people be using it. It's a very snowball build, especially on someone like Rek'Sai.
Yep.
You don't have a lot of HP, and the way you just go in is with your face in the front line, so it never really works out that well for you. I do still like the Stride Breaker a little bit better. You still have a lot of damage, and if you're ganking someone, like, let's say you're ganking this bot lane with 3v2, if you got Stride Breaker, you'll still find the kill. It doesn't matter if it's Stride Breaker or
You know, the biggest build I'm seeing in this game that we haven't talked about is there's an Iceborne first on Chalitza.
Yes.
Very different role when we've seen Stride Breaker, we've seen Divine Sunderer, we've even seen Gore Drinker. We have never seen an Iceborne, Frozen Gauntlet in the top lane.
So, I was just checking Frostfire, and the slow field actually isn't impacted by whether you're range or melee or not. So you still get the same effect out of the item, even if you're in Mini-Gnar form. That's probably a pretty good reason to pick that item up, and it does help you with the split pushing. You know, a lot of times Flandre might be able to cleanse away the slow from your boomerang, but you're going to have consistent ones.
Oh no. EDG challenging the Herald though, Clement in the meanwhile. Into the pit, the steal, not there. Shockwave brings him in and Jeje's dead. Cannon Barrage used, no Lilting Lullaby for the second time. As Flandre's too far forward, that knock up beautiful. And it's a double over to Xiaopeng. His Rek'Sai, although behind early, is coming in clutch now.
I wanted to say the only place that Prowler's Claw really made a huge difference in the ganks was definitely going to be top lane, because Flandre is basically a standing AD carry, and they finally find good use of it, just sniping those 2 kills. And I wonder what Xiaopeng's going to build next. Is he going to continue to go on the lethality experiment here?
Yeah, because now it's a bit more stated, right? Now it's you can clarify that, all right, well, he's found a bit of a lead, he can continue down this path. At the very least, you know, while we were talking about Thick Boy Gnar as the Moonlight Vigil misses from Viper, he's going to get quite large with his size, you know, also the bonus health that comes with it. We got to talk that, like, we're seeing an Essence Reaver first out of our GP top from Flandre. We've got a Zhonya's first, like, this is riddled with interesting kind of different builds.
We have seen GP with Triforce at the start of the split, but a lot more people have gone over towards the Essence Reaver build now that the Triforce has been nerfed a lot in terms of AD. So the thought process is you don't really need the attack speed. Essence Reaver is pure AD. It's 30 extra AD over the Triforce. So for most of the Q poke harass, you're actually doing a little bit better in lane.
Viper just bullying out Teen. further to your point as well, when he gets that second item, it's going to be really nice for Flandre because he's gone through this laning phase quite well. I know we explained the matchup at the start, but you know, as we get into the split push, we know that GP is a menace, and especially in these fights, if he's on the objective first, set up with the barrel chain can stop any engage coming from a team.
Yeah, I just want to re-clarify. Actually, you still do more damage with the Triforce because of the Spellblade block is 200% compared to 100% extra AD. But Essence Reaver does come out as a more efficient item just because you don't have to spend your gold onto attack speed, and also because you do have some mana issues just constantly poking out in lane. So we have seen a pretty strong shift to that being the first item, and then getting your life seal and sort of split push power from the Immortal Shield Bow.
Also, you know, just 20% crit chance. The fact that our Zeal items and pretty much all mythics have that 20% now, like a flat, nice mark. Very easy to track. You know, plus ability haste. When we're talking 20, we're on like the 16% cooldown reduction chain. So feels pretty nice. He actually backed away, and Flandre, I'm going to be interested to see if he got his mythic with this second buy, because we're 30 seconds from Dragon Clement. EDG already have 2. They're moving quickly towards an Infernal Soul point, which could just end this game at 30 to 35 minutes if they get that dream fight.
Yeah, so I think all eyes have to be on Xiaopeng right now. He found some really good catches to start things off. They have the Herald, so they had that early access into the river as well. And maybe we can see Twyla finally find a good combo with his teammate. He has the Alistar as a ball delivery system, but so far in this series, I haven't been impressed with the shockwaves. Can he find it here?
Hey, that's the shield bow picked up for Flandre. 2 items, Cannon Barrage onto his position. He flashes away. The ultimate from Viper misses again. He may not have played Aphelios that much, as into the backline, JJ with a 2-man sleep. EDG now want to send this fight up as a 2-man shockwave. Is the retribution into the backline. Rek'Sai, she kills herself into the wall. Chalitza kills somebody else, and Scout's still here trying to auto away. He'll manage to find one, but now onto Twyla. He goes in with the shifting sands, and there was a lot of inting across the board with a lot of cool plays.
That was a really cool comeback from TT. They actually got chunked down early by Flandre, had to go into the river without really boxing out EDG onto the top side, but in that critical blue choke is where they found all of their advantage. They got JJ down early, they stopped Viper from doing a lot of damage, and if you could see Azir, Scout wasn't doing anything in most of that team fight. He was actually just knocked out by Team. Team kept him out of the entire thing for a long time.
Yes, he did. A lot of ultimates were suboptimal from EDG though, Clement. Let's be quite realistic. Like, you know, Viper, it's the second time on our screen he's missed his Moonlight Vigil, and he had Gravitum in an AoE choke, so that could have been very different sets up for Jeju. And, you know, Viper is 2-1, so he's still kind of fed, but every time we get in one of these fights where EDG misplay or TT find that advantage, they're giving Samira more kills, and we'll see how it started onto Flandre again.
Yeah, we see the miss ultimate coming out from Viper, like you mentioned, and this is the point where I felt like EDG kind of lost their bearings. JJ goes in too early, and then they give up a beautiful 2-man shockwave over to TT. Xiaopeng's able to deliver. Viper finds himself right in front of a Mega Gnar, dies, and Scout wasn't really in that fight whatsoever.
Scout ulted pretty much nothing again. So Scout's Azir ultimates didn't hit the mark. And now we're
this split, EDG has been famous for going to game 3s. Because they, in their first 3 series, they always went to game 3. That's what JJ was referring to at the start. He was telling his fans, I'm sorry, but there might not be a game 3 against TT. He might have spoken too soon.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did. We'll see. Sam D's in a very good position. The Dragon was just taken as Baron has now spawned. Chalitza pushing on this side lane with Titanic Hydra. Look how chunky this boy is now. 2 items. The Frozen Fire. Holy crap, why did they change
Frostfire Gauntlet.
Frostfire Gauntlet, excuse me, has beefed him up a bit more. And he's in a pretty good position now, hitting 2 items himself. So you can see in the last team fight, Chalitza was a big impact on the back line.
I've never seen this build, but I'm really curious at how it does, because you do have the extra HP from every legendary with the Frostfire. It gives you 100 extra HP, and that scales very, very well with the Titanic Hydra, because the Titanic Hydra, when you're range, I believe it's reduced to 60%, but you still get a bit of a cleave effect on that one, and it's essentially double scaling here. for all the extra HP you get, it also buffs up the Titanic Hydra thing.
True. You know, Asterix Gauge third, right, with the pickaxe shown, would be like the perfect trifecta of items here on this Gnar. Also note that, you know, you give space to Xiaopeng to do his business. He's got a Prowler's Claw, we talked about at the start of the game. Serrated Dirk there as well, Clement. So he's indexing in. He's going all in. What do you want to see next? Edge of Night, Youmuu's, like, where do you go here?
I think Edge of Night is the more standard one.
Okay.
It definitely is a more... Considering how many times he's died right after he ulted, I think Edge of Night is definitely the go-to one for him. But interestingly enough, this is something that I have applauded TT for, is they have very good recognition of win conditions in their games. They might not have, you know, the mechanical skill to outmuscle their opponents, but they are very good at identifying what they should go for. And what EDG lacks right now is a tank. They have no one that can take over the damage. So if a Chalitza can chase someone down in the side lane, and you have Xiaopeng going in and just assassinating someone right off the bat, you could win these team fights very easily.
Because I know you talked about EDG's comp being like, well, I prefer this composition in draft because for TT, their avenue of play wasn't that simplistic, right? You know, it relied a lot around what Xiaopeng could do, propping up SamD and Tini in the early game, and through a couple of lane plays, SamD's now in a good position, Xiaopeng's in a good position, Twyla has that wombo alongside Chalitza, so scaling doesn't feel as simple as we talked about, right? Like, it does feel like TT could have better setup alongside picks and maybe re-engaging on these objectives.
Yeah, EDG definitely still have the scaling in their corner, but what TT could do to alleviate that is just pick off a member instantly, and all of their members are rather easy to kill. You're talking about Xiaopeng, he does 15% extra damage with that Prowler's Claw going in onto someone, and he has double lethality items right now, so it's very possible for them to sort of find a two-man game that, like, they're setting up into the bottom side.
Big potential. I'll keep that in mind. The Edge of Night was picked up. We saw Xiaopeng get it burnt before. I want to add an apology. We did actually yesterday see the Frostfire Gauntlet on a Gnar, so I apologize for that. But it's still a very rare sighting, and it's something I love with the LPL players. Sometimes they are willing to experiment and show us what they've been doing in solo queue. SamD dodging away from the swell seed. Clement, you know what they're fighting over. The Infernal's up in 3 seconds.
Going to be a very close one, and the question for EDG is who's actually going to poke their head into this fight first. It seems like to me that they're not going to have a choice.
Teen starts off the engage. Chalitza here going into Mega Gnar. Scout bops him away. Shockwave hits onto 2. But Viper's already got the pick onto Xiaopeng as Teen is running for his life. He doesn't want to be turned into red meat while SamD takes the Moonlight Vigil with Infernum attached. EDG, 5 members standing means 5 members going to Dragon.
Oh, that was kind of tragic for Xiaopeng, but I believe he blew up before he could deliver the ball to where it needed to be. So the Wombo combo falls apart, and he also pays with it with his life.
Oh my god. Viper is just walking into turret. It takes no damage because Sephram. And goodbye. That was any hope of TT defending, and Viper just continues to show his muscle.
And Xiaopeng finally gets the item that he needed the most. He picks up the perfect timing here. He's going to have the stopwatch, so that doesn't happen again. But I do want to see how that fight started off. I felt like it was actually a pretty decent setup from TT. They did have the perfect flank. They did reach the back line, but for some reason, the ball and Xiaopeng were not really hitting at the same time. And yeah, the ball does get the pull, but Xiaopeng was already dead there, so there wasn't any follow-up damage. They have a great lilting lullaby coming out from Jija, zoning everyone out. And in pure LPL fashion, we come back to another replay.
Yeah, now 5 versus 4. You have a composition that can start hitting this Baron. Let's go. TT gonna test it up, and EDG stuck in a 4 versus 5 with Scout's teleport, but he's down for 35 seconds.
And Flandre is so far away from the fight, he has to teleport in, but he's going to be so late, and he doesn't have the cannon barrage just
Clement
yet.
setting up the barrel chain. He has the cannon barrage in about 3-4 seconds, but Xiaopeng's going back in for the smite, and TT have secured it. Jeje now running away from a big angry dinosaur. He gets slowed down into the wall, sent back into his team. Team bops him up. It's asleep, but he's the one who could go to bed in the end as Viper ranging down. Chalitza gets hit by the cannon barrage, but it's too late. Team will be the trade while Xiaopeng is waiting on the back end. Can anyone see him? He wants the flank here. As they approach the turret, that Rek'Sai is coming in red hot onto Viper, changes target onto Mako, hits the backline. They found a pick, and TT still getting burnt down as Viper's got the range advantage. And they're like, no, this was the wrong move. Ninja gated again. Viper forces him to flash over the wall and almost single-handedly carries a fight while Scout takes down Jalitza. And it's all gone bare-breasted for TT.
TT finally clawed back the lead, but they give it back in an instant. That was a very tragic chain of events coming in. Xiaopeng waited a long time. He goes in, he trades off the support, but then SamD goes in too far. He goes straight up to Viper's grill and gets shut down into the dirt.
No one goes into Viper's grill, Clement. You've seen his grills, man. They're as expensive as hell. He's got 3 items and he carried the fight. Like, he had that Infinity Edge, and now it's just like, well, Baron play negated about minus 2,000, excuse me, in the top right of your screen. And this is what set up the Baron with Scout getting caught out.
A very good play from Teen. He pops the turbo chem tank to get the first kill, but I need to see what happens right here. Why is SamD deciding to go in right in front of Viper? What happened there to make them do that play? That was the most baffling moment in this entire sequence. So Xiaopeng is waiting right here. He's going for the kill. We're still in speed up. Twyla is forced out of the fight pretty early. Great damage coming out from Mako. And let's watch SamD. He actually goes in for the potential reset. He does find the kill, but isn't able to walk back. And they just give 2 straight back to EDG.
And the range, like, I love the flash out in the end here, because he was dead for sure. And on the back end, we didn't see it, but Scout ends up respawning, teleporting in and getting the kill. And TT still trying to look for a pick as we come back into live. 29 minutes in. The game's not over, but you can see how big of a threat Viper is. He went back and bought a GA outright. 4 items versus 3 for SamD. And a minute 30 until the next dragon. EDG are fighting for Soul.
This is a very interesting situation because TT have proven they can definitely snipe out people before the team fight happens. But at this point, where EDG have a Azir, Gangplank, and Aphelios, I think the scaling's too much. Even if they're able to kill 1 target, I still feel like EDG could finish the rest of the fight. So TT really have to parse out their ultimates. They cannot overinvest in killing 1 target, and it has to happen in relatively quick succession if they want to win the entire team fight.
Because we already talked about the cannon barrage of global pressure to delay the fight and get EDG into position. TT have to find that pick and get out, just to further your point. They need one before this dragon spawns, or they need a shockwave that hits 5 members, sets up for SamD. Very specific conditions for TT. And our chat might be like, oh, the goal's only 1,000 though, this is a close game. It is, but now with Soul up, now with EDG's condition of outscaling the game and that Moonstone Renewer to buff up these elongated fights, it feels like EDG are 1 fight away from being able to crush this victory.
And here we see Mako is going in, already popped the turbo chem tank. They're trying to chase off members into the very deep into the mid lane and hopefully get an angle into this river, but TT are not budging from this position.
Does mean that Mako Shirelli's referee is not up and available for this next fight, but bit of a small cooldown. EDG hitting off the side of this mid wave. TT do have priority in the river. Viper's going to be pushing mid. They might just give up this Infernal for the sake of challenging the base.
And they're actually just going for it. We see the pings go down from EDG. The Infernal Drake has already been taken away. This should be a free inhibitor on the side of EDG. Pretty smart way they played it. You know, with that mid inhibitor going down, that means on the next Drake, they should have a pretty easy time actually forcing their way into river first.
And we see the cannon barrage used for Flandre. Chat, don't get toxic. Remember that this is a very small cooldown at this point. We have 4 items with the Zeal Mortal Reminder picked up as Tien gets bopped out a little bit. Viper ready with Calibrum and the Crescendum. Swellseed doesn't go through the choke as Flandre's waiting for his setup in the mid wave. He's doing 1100 with his crit right now. So Flandre is a big space pirate and he can hold off the rest of TT.
That is a 80% crit Gangplank incoming. A lot of damage from him. This is going to be a really scary situation, especially for someone like SamD. He has very low range, only 500 on the Samira. He's going to have to walk up to Flandre. And here we go.
Here we go. Nap time. Flandre waiting for the setup. Calibrum with a 4-man Moonlight Vigil. Mako gets the perfect hook. And Gigi's ready to engage. Is in the back line. Scout gets the one ult that matters. Chilita sent off Crunch into the wall. Wallops him down, but he too will die. As Twyla knows this is the game-ending play, he gets scurvy and falls off the pirate ship. EDG wipe him clean. And now they're running through mid.
I really didn't like that play from TT. I don't think taking mid lane tower down was important at all in that situation, and they group up for EDG to find a perfect fight onto them.
Twyla, he's trying to waste some time here, Clement, but he too will die. A full-blown ace. They run through the mid, and EDG, are they the best team in the LPL? It's starting to look like they're top 3, no doubt, as they hold their position with a flawless win.